Meanwhile, back at base, so to speak, the machines of Clarkson spin on. These here are manufacturing Clarkson high-flow cutters, which, on assembly, will be fitted with throwaway carbide tips. After numerous intermediate operations, the wedge and tip seatings are ground on the latest type of reciprocating table surface grinding machine, using the diaform grinding wheel forming technique. The cutter is accurately positioned on the holding fixture, which is then indexed to each slot in turn, ensuring the precise dimensions necessary for high-performance cutters of this type. The tips have been designed for setting with negative cutting angles, providing adequate clearance on the bevel or approach angle and on the end tooth. Because the tips are made with sides square to the face, each tip will provide 8 cutting edges by simply reversing them as the edges lose their original keenness. Clarkson high-flow cutters are manufactured in the following wide range of sizes: 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch, 5-inch, 6, 8, 10, and 12-inch. Nowadays, it is considered to be a more economical proposition to throw away the old tips and replace them with new ones, rather than to expend valuable man-hours on regrinding. Speaking of grinding, this Clarkson side and face cutter, one of the vast range manufactured by Clarkson's, is being reground on a Clarkson cutter grinder machine, about 70 of which are employed in the manufacture of Clarkson cutters. It is worth mentioning that all the Clarkson cutters ever produced have been ground on Clarkson cutter grinding machines of the same type as those obtainable from any Clarkson distributor. Grinding also plays an important role in the production of Clarkson's latest innovation, the FC3 throwaway cutter. As always, accuracy is of the highest order, and tolerances of 0.2 of a thou are religiously observed by the use of mechanical comparators and quality control charting techniques. This is one of the 5 Hertline flute grinding machines at Nuneaton. Each machine disgorges something like 3,000 finished cutters per day, all served by a central coolant system of 2,500 gallons capacity. After this process, each cutter is tested and checked on a Magnaflux crack detection machine, as all Clarkson cutters are, in order to maintain the highest standard of quality. Strict quality control is exercised on all Clarkson products at all times. FC3 throwaway cutters, manufactured in both long and short series, and ranging from a 1/16 to a quarter or 1.5 to 6 millimeters, all sizes being available in bullnose, mark a real breakthrough in small cutter costs. At present day regrinding costs, it is definitely cheaper to throw away cutters of this size once their useful life is over. And remember, small size cutters are more prone to overloading than their bigger brothers are. The 3-flute design of the cutter allows them to be used both as a slot drill and as an end mill. So, with one cutter doing the work of 2, this makes for a considerable reduction in stock to be carried by stores, as well as a saving in outlay. Naturally, Clarkson FC3 cutters are made of the highest quality, high-speed steel. FC3 cutter holders are produced with the same degree of precision and care as any other product in Clarkson's vast range. Apart from the 1,500 standard items manufactured by Clarkson, full provision has been made for the production of chucks and cutters to customers' own specifications. Here, in what is called the specials section, the operator is grinding the taper and pilot diameter of a special auto-lock chuck. Now checking the profile of a milling cutter produced by the specials section. On completion, this cutter will be used in the production of auto-lock slot drills. On an average day, something like 10,000 components are manufactured at Nuneaton. These have to be assembled into product items, where applicable, identified by various marking or etching techniques. The products are then checked, wrapped, and packed, to be dispatched to the vast Clarkson distribution network throughout the UK and all over the world. The Clarkson Story, we called this film, but it might have been more apt to call it a chapter in the Clarkson Story, or the Clarkson Story to be continued, because by the time it reaches your screen, it will probably need revising. New ideas, new techniques, new markets broached and conquered. 40% of Clarkson's production goes to export. Heat-treated components are then subjected to a final scale removing operation on a continuous rotary shot blasting machine. Like all brilliant ideas, the world-famous auto-lock milling chuck, originated by Clarkson, is simplicity itself. It comprises a center to centralize and support the cutter end, a collet of split construction threaded to take the cutter, a sleeve which engages the collet's taper nose, truly centralizing the cutter, and a body, precision made from nickel-chrome alloy steel. To assemble the auto-lock S-type chuck, the sleeve is unscrewed from the chuck body. The appropriate collet is inserted into the sleeve, with the driving flats on the collet engaging in the sleeve's mating slot. The sleeve and collet assembly is then inserted back into the chuck body, and the sleeve screwed home until the flange meets the face of the body. The cutter is screwed into the collet until it tightens on the center. Final tightening of the sleeve to the point whereby the chuck can take really heavy cuts is effected with the auto-lock spanner provided. An equally famous milling chuck, the deadlock, the principle of which was also originated by Clarkson, enjoys a number of unique features. The body of nickel-chrome alloy steel, hardened and ground to precision limits, houses a multi-start threaded locking shaft made from 90-ton tensile alloy steel, a stop screw which positions the locking shaft exactly in line, and a release screw to set in motion the remarkably simple release system. Assembly, if one can use the word, is merely effected by adjusting the stop and release screws and then screwing a cutter onto the shaft and tightening it by hand against the chuck face. It is now rigidly locked and ready to mill at high feeds and speeds with absolute safety. In fact, the heavier the cut, the tighter will become the grip. The completely rigid lock between cutter and chuck seating faces, transmitted via the high torque generated during the milling operation, is broken in seconds, simply by the turn of a key, firstly in the stop screw and then in the release screw. Clarksons are known internationally as the milling specialists. Their auto-lock and deadlock chucks are preferred by 8 out of 10 organizations using chucks of these types for precision engineering works. At Alfred Herbert Limited of Coventry, for example, we see an auto-lock chuck being used in the production of components for Archdale milling machines. Clarkson Deadlock Chuck machines aluminium at a Bristol Siddeley works. In Edinburgh, Ferranti. Here, a small auto-lock chuck and cutter shapes metal with precision for the electronics industry. The Clarkson organization is backed by a comprehensive distribution system served by its own team of technical representatives. Randall's in Luton. Robert Kelly and Sons Limited, Manchester. E.H. Francis of London. And many others, not only in the British Isles, but all over the world.